Who else works in an office environment that's slowly gnashing, churning, and crushing any semblance of heart, soul, creativity, and jubilance from them? Say yeah.
Who else in the level curve say yeah?
Me too. What a coinky-dink soldier. But I try not to let it get to me, except when it does. But I have a sliver of sterling salvation sating my senses because during my treasured lunch breaks, I get nasty on the keyboard and mouse, which is a terrible way to phrase that. Oopsie daisies. That makes it sound like I'm doing something a lot worse than I am. I'm actually just engaging with the best browser-based video games no money can buy. I've been playing so many video games that my coworker has begun referring to my sickness as extended R&D and has made it clear that this cannot go to waste. Of course, he doesn't know it's not going to waste because I'm an idiot who makes videos on the internet for sweet, sweet strangers. And here's the rub, bub, I like the video games more than most. And allowing you to peer into my twisted perspective would make most simply go insane. This is obviously a joke that I'm using to convince you that there'll be more where that came from, and this sentence exists to meta-sardonically confirm that is in fact the case. In this video, I will highlight just north of 50 weird little interesting free-to-play browser games that even my SH double hockey sticks box half-decade-old minimum functional specs work computer can run. I easily played over 100 games prior to pruning my list down to a respectable 50. Why 50? Well, my last compendium-style video featured $21 games, and I feel it pertinent to continue upping the ante until I inevitably arrive at my magnum opus, D-Money's top 100 games to play before you die. Coming soon. But I really picked 50 because I played 50 great games and felt they all deserve some shine. This video is organized in no particular order, no worst to best, no best to worst, because I'm trying to divorce myself from such rigid, numbered list context void value judgments, and also so I can organize these bad boys in an engaging way which maximizes watch time metrics. What can I say? I'm afflicted with the number sickness. Some people were just more easily afflicted. That's life, and I need another hit. With all that said, welcome to Mr. Nonsense's train ride to nowhere. On today's episode, I'm proud to present our annual 50 great games you can play, no download required. Klifur represents a confluence of sports and puzzle games. Rock climbing is the exact sort of extreme sport that makes my timorous knees buckle. I lack both the athleticism and courage to undertake an action which likely will lead me, ironically, to the Undertaker. Thankfully, video games present the perfect opportunity for ridiculous wish fulfillment, even when I actually wish for $10 million and 3 more wishes. With Klifur, what you see is what you get. You have one gangly-limbed silly idiot boy, some precarious hand and foot holds, and a goal. You maneuver your gangly-limbed silly idiot boy by mouse-clicking each individual limb and reaching it to your intended destination. Friction occurs when these outstretched gangly limbs don't quite have the gifted length to penetrate the holding stone's perimeter. On top of length lack, there is a rudimentary stamina system which prevents players from hokey-poking each limb in and out for extended periods. With these mechanics understood, the joy of Klifur becomes obvious, because no matter if you win or lose, Klifur is mega fun time goofy. Successful Klifur runs require awkwardly directing and untangling our sweet mountain idiot boy and placing him in bonkers orientations. Fail states are equally entertaining, whether it's because you lost track of stamina or missed a vital handhold when Clifford the Klifur from Klifur falls, we all laugh. For the past few weeks I've chipped away at this video Cobb Can Move has set perched at the pinnacle of browser game serfdom. This chart-topping, heart-stopping, innovative little romp has easily earned its popular gold medal pedestal position. Cobb Can Move's hook is that with each level clearance, either the titular Cobb gains an additional sensory input or the player is debuffed in some manner. What begins as a benign little trek to collect dollops of coal to stoke a horde game's hook's flame quickly morphs into a complex dance of stealth, planning, and execution. But be warned, even the best plans can miraculously and hilariously fall into absurd disrepair as Cobb's tarantula tendril arms horror comedy yank the player into his red, moist maw. Luckily for players, Cobb's sensory gimmick borrows small parts from its distant roguelike cousins, meaning that with each defeat and each level restart, Cobb and the player's buffs and debuffs are re-rolled. This creates situations where some levels are drastically more difficult than their peers, and I'm looking directly at you, Cobb Can Multiply. Despite a little whiplash and difficulty disparity within the same level strata, Cobb Can Move is still a deceptively intricate game who underneath its schlock horror diaspora crude wallpapering presents a sharp idea in an engaging manner. Welcome to a post-apocalyptic world where mice are the dominant species and nuclear devastation wafts through the air. Our protagonist sets out on a journey to pay ransom for his girlfriend. The most effective means of raising funds is to hit the open ocean and fish out beasts of the deep. That's my written hook for the game, Hooked. And to keep this small bit alive for a fractional moment of eternity's scope longer, I was myself fully hooked as well. Hook takes major cues from 4 disparate genres and mashes them together with such alacrity and precision that I struggle to understand exactly how these dichotomous mechanics can so perfectly create a unique tactile experience. We have micro-fishing games similar but not exactly copying Stardew Valley. We have inventory management a la Dredge and Resident Evil that both serves as, the inventory, but also a puzzle to maximize profits based off unique fish physiology and innate traits. Next, there's an extraction element which involves players monitoring their health bar against inclement apocalyptic weather while managing the risk-reward factor of remaining on the water to haul additional fish. And finally, we have a smattering of small roguelite meta progression elements, which allow for players to upgrade their inherent stats as well as purchase items which can protect against the storm for additional runs. The gameplay loop present is addictive and left me wanting so much more. I want this built out into something far bigger, far longer, and something I could pay my big boy hard-earned full-time job dollars towards. For this reason, I'm awarding Hooked with the Best in Show award category. I want more, all caps. Howdy, you may be asking yourself, what the hell's this Best in Show shit? I thought you said you weren't making any value judgments. Well, here's the thing, sometimes I lie and I can't help myself. I wanted to take a moment to appreciate games that were particularly cool as opposed to just pretty cool. So there's a smattering of these throughout. Believe me, I am trying to remove myself from the value judgment cesspool, but it's hard to break free, and I haven't broken those chains yet. If you think that this is a ridiculous aside, it sure is, but this is a ridiculous video, all things considered. Anyway, we'll go to the next game. I love you. Goodbye. Ha ha ha. Cultisti, I hope that's how you pronounce that. If it isn't, I'm so sorry. I respect you. We'll talk about that. Cultisti is an itch.io developer who, over the course of this video's planning and scripting process, I've come to respect immensely. See, I told you. At one point, early in planning, over 10% of the games covered in this video were developed by Cultisti. I have made the decision to reduce that down to 1 to allow other folks some time to shine. But as part of a compromise with myself, I will explicitly state that Cultisti's entire itch.io page is worth review. For today's purposes, we're looking at Frogfall because the game has frogs in it. I wish I had a better reason, but I like frogs and I am a man of immense principle. Frogfall is a simple-to-grasp, single-screen type puzzling platform game. The game is broken into worlds that each contain a half dozen or so levels. Each world introduces new micro-mechanics which build upon Frogfall's innate platforming foundation. Players are free to approach these levels in the balls to the walls, lips to the ship's style, or more methodically determine the angle of best approach before beginning. Controls are responsive and difficulty is oh so Goldilocks correct. Navigating from jump to jump on the fly makes for an interesting take on the platforming and puzzle genres that does not over or understay its welcome. Once again, to repeat a metaphor that's living rent-free in my rapidly scripting brain, everything here is just like Goldilocks. That's actually a simile, which is like a metaphor, which is, once again, a simile. Get Yolked is a ridiculous Slay the Spire-like strategy card game roguelike starring 3D models of the sexiest men that ever live. Our goal is to train our Mr. Universe hopeful stick-thin Andy into a monster mountain beefcake, the likes of which your preferred eldritch horror gods could only concoct when under duress of extraterrestrial evaporation. Gameplay consists of playing cards which train specific body parts. The more a body part is trained, the larger it gets, just like real life. To clear levels, your contestant must reach certain overall bodybuilding thresholds. The exact ratio of body parts trained is irrelevant, meaning that players can commit to a glute build or a chest build or have a more metered spread out approach. Cards offer opportunity to synergize with each other to maximize muscle bulk gained. However, if you train too hard, you risk tearing your trainees' muscles and forcing them into rest or worse, early retirement. It is important to manage getting fucking huge, brother, with proper rest, again, just like real life. On top of the on-the-surface gameplay, there are events, upgrades, and card rewards, which allow players to better attune their decks for certain builds and keep a lively sort of roguelike flair, which appeals specifically to my corroded mega crit damage brain. Overall, Get Yolked manages to navigate its exaggerated tone with its puzzling card-style gameplay to create a product that exceeds my expectations, because frankly, with this name and these graphics, if I book cover judged this bad boy, I would have assumed the worst and missed out on the spectacle. In this game, you penetrate your dragon with increasingly long swords, and if you think I'm being coy and euphemistic for some elaborate ill-concocted bit, you'd be wrong. Deepest Sword puts these thoughts in my head through pernicious audio-visual transmissions. There's an undeniable sultry tone to the proceedings that will either land as a humorous throughline or an awkward hurdle. Speaking of awkward hurdles, this entire game, Waka Waka. Deepest Sword carries the cumbersome baggage of its rage game cousins in its gameplay. Like I mentioned, the goal of the game is penetration, just like when I was a college freshman, Waka Waka, but our little knight lacks my sheer hot swag, so it's only natural he gets nagged into the nether dimensions. This size queen sophistry worms its way into our little knight's head, so he retreats and resorts to bringing a collection of larger and larger ironworks to the big show. The catch is our little knight really struggles to command the profound bulk of his newfound weaponry. Navigating these pseudo-platforming puzzle sections by haphazardly swinging your heft to and fro is equal parts engaging and frustrating. I'm not afraid of admitting that I could not breach the final plunge due to an alarming lack of skill. If you think you can do better, take a stab at it. That's a pun. Get it? Stab? Woo! Check, please. Mingle is the chicken wings of video games. You probably think I've lost my mind and am spouting sound nonsense out of my verb hole, but I swear this makes sense. What is a chicken wing? A delicious, scrumptious morsel that can be devoured and optimally enjoyed in a few bites. The downside, of course, is there ain't much meat on those bones. Mingle, similarly, is a delicious bite of unique I Spy style matching game goodness. But outside of my first playthrough, there isn't much else here to explore. I think under prime condition, Mingle's greatest strength would reside in trying to beat your best times. But Mingle seemingly disagrees with my assertion since there's no in-game timer option anywhere. And it isn't like getting a timer is hard. We all have timers on our phones or can Google search one within seconds. But the external artifice that creates undermines what I think is Mingle's greatest strength. If the timer was by default in the game, it would provide a tacit approval that this is the best way to play. The fact that it doesn't makes me think that my vision of Mingle's best self is not in alignment with the developers, which, it's a-okay by me, you know, different strokes for different folks and all that. Conservation of Bass, as a title alone, should win multiple Best in Show awards, but we here on this here YouTube channel take things seriously and never joke about anything except when I feel like it. And a name alone is not sufficient to receive one of my illustrious fictional awards. Conservation of Bass is a puzzle platformer where we take control of a fish in boots who can alter the scope of reality and molecularly decompose and recompose mass in a given area. This results in our booted bass trading location with all manner of objects. On its surface, this mechanic seems inflexible, but thanks to some wondrous lateral thinking and interesting implementation, Conservation of Bass exceeds expectations as it continues to present more intriguing puzzles and build upon a rather limited skill set. Control-wise, Conservation of Bass is simultaneously rigid and free-form. This is in large part due to the player's cursor always being 2 squares away, but undercut by a time-slowing mechanic to pinpoint precise perform pliable physics platforming. The moment the game requested that I begin mid-air position swapping over instant death chasms, I knew this game had the special sauce. The perfect combination of puzzle and platforming that often evades even the most battle-hardened developers in the genre. For nailing the P&P ratio, I want to present the Best in Show award for puzzle platforming to Conservation of Bass, developed by M. Lees, formerly Faxstock. For receiving this award, I am going to recommend that viewers also play Bun Mask, another puzzle platformer developed by our winner that's pretty cool. When I first played Baldi's Fun New School Ultimate Edition, I had no clue what I was getting into. Somehow, probably due to my previous almost religious-like commitment to avoiding horror games and horror YouTube creators, I managed to avoid everything surrounding Baldi's basics. When I saw the itch.io thumbnail for this game, I thought it would be a sardonic mockumentary-style Broderbund type Mavis Beacons typing lampooning of digital edutainment relics. In a roundabout way, I was correct, but in a more linear type direction, I was horribly mistaken. This game lampoons and parodies these styles of games, but from the cynical perspective of what if not horror thing was horror-shaped and bingo bango, we got a viral hit on our hands. Despite my initial hesitance with the subject matter and my rather pessimistic worldview, I have to say that BFNSU successfully manages to unwind my figurative yarn's worth of reservations by presenting an interesting take on the hunted by monsters suspense thriller type games which dominate in specific fandoms. In my previous upload, I talked about how a group of friends watched me play Baldi's Basics and had a grand old time watching little old tissue paper frail me engage with tones that rub sandpaper-like against my fragile sensibilities. I noted that if this session was recorded, I would make literally $1 million from YouTube for being an AdSense leader because Baldi made me want to cry. I was very uncomfortable, but I am at my core a people pleaser and I aim to please by eye-hole stuffing and gorging their joy-brimmed faces with my best impression of someone brave fighting back adult tears. If it wasn't for their schadenfreude and my corrupted willingness to make others happy, then I wouldn't care for Baldi, but why would we so thoroughly recollect on matters not material and fully fictitious? Handshakes is a clever puzzle game about having two identical buddies lock their big, grubby mitts together in brotherly love, or another type of much more interesting filmable love if you catch my drift. Handshakes functions as the perfect elevator pitch of a game and continues to introduce interesting wrinkles throughout its roughly 90-minute runtime. I wish I could wax more poetic about the gameplay, but what you see is what you get, and at the most basic critical consensus level, Handshakes is just a good, straightforward, make-you-feel-smart type puzzle game. Six months ago, I made some wild claims about Terry Kavanagh's Egg during a video covering all of the games bundled in the Steam release of Terry's other games. Egg wasn't one of those games, but it was Kavanagh's most recent release. These claims I made and opinions expressed were so wrong that I felt obligated to create a follow-up addendum-style video to wash my feet clean with my word hair. That's biblical, baby. I don't often retread old ground, but when I do, it almost always involves a Terry Kavanagh developed game, so here we go again. Why is Egg cool for the uninitiated? Egg is a 3D puzzle platformer where players control a silly little egg through monstrous, awkward terrain. While Egg isn't innately a rage-type game, the way these levels, mechanics, and my specific human idiot psyche interact make Egg at times feel a little bit like a Bennett Foddy light as opposed to a full-blown Bennett Foddy-like. I love Egg dearly because Egg is a game with the sheer goofy authority to bring people together. My time playing Egg with my coworkers during the autumn of the Egg Lunchtime Big Gang will likely always cut a positive nostalgia current through a time where my overall employment is killing me slowly. I'm certain that Egg is the perfect game for Twitch.tv users to rage and laugh and poke fun at while chat says inappropriate things and the streamer rotates between T-posing and hitting the gritty. I think Egg is so good that I must present it with 2 Best in Show awards. First, the Best in Show for platformers, and second, the Best in Show for keeping my heart full amidst the rush of rubbish. If you want to hear my extended thoughts, feel free to check out my video about Kavanaugh and Egg. In Archives of Trevosa, you take the helm of an exploratory historical and genealogical survey committed to uncovering the lost truth of a distant royal lineage. Accumulate information by poring over dozens of historic texts to discover the names, titles, and deep-rooted personal histories which govern this once great society and dynasty. At its core, Trevosa is a cards-up-on-the-table found information puzzle game which requires players to tune their brains to reading mode, and if you are like me, to take ample physical notes to suss out cryptic, arcane, Old Englishified terminology. This is an elaborate ordeal which in many ways has more in common with the everyday Onion than a puzzle game in the way you gotta peel back these layers of maroon-skinned artifice. While this game may not be much to look at and the gameplay may not have a pulse-pounding athletic sort of vivifying boundless pomp, I swear the amount of mental cartwheels and somersaults produced are equal to at least a hearty portion of one Hotline Miami. If deduction puzzles are your jam, then I think Archives of Trevosa will tickle your pickle. The quiet winds and water lap the oral periphery. A slow progression of keys softly pounds a tune distant and true. The packages, their weights, destinations, and hopes contained within. Stamps stored and shipped to loved ones and business partners alike. Fragile stories balanced on the precipice of bureaucracy and labor. What would have happened if I wasn't born in the desert? What if I knew the sea and its intimate secrets? What if I commanded the salty air and craggy visage and the stark shadows cast by virtue of the blinding lighthouse rays? What if I was somebody else, somewhere else? What if Papers, Please wasn't so goddamn harrowing? Peggy's post is good in the same way that most things are good. People make great stuff, and this is certainly stuff. I find myself gravitating to the elements that hold the game together rather than the game itself, if that makes any sense. The sounds, the graphics, the expectations placed on the player resound louder than the trite gameplay. I use the term greater than the sum of its parts a lot, but I may mean it more now than ever. Peggy's post is good, but not for any reasons. Other games are good. I don't think it's fun, but it is, and maybe simply being is all it needs to be. With love. Next. Roulette Knight is a subversive little mistress which simultaneously pisses me off to the highest of heavens and left a thoroughly impressive impression. In Roulette Knight, players take control of a knight and his gun. This knight loves nothing more than point-blank pointing his six-shooter temple side and squeezing his life out of the trigger. Gameplay is standard roguelike flair. With individualized runs allow players the opportunity to attempt different combinations of items and upgrades, but one too many self-inflicted wounds and it's back to the beginning of the game for you. Players place bullets in the chamber and play the odds. More bullets, more rewards, more ability to purchase upgrades and items. The reason Roulette Knight pissed me off so much is because it served as a brutal reminder that numbers and probability are not swayed by feelings. A 2/3 chance to avoid damage may be player favored, but it's not unimpeachable. This game's map board is huge and the trigger must get squeezed dozens if not hundreds of times. And in the words of Professor Scott Steiner, the numbers don't lie and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
See, Joe, the numbers don't lie and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
The likelihood that safety remains your mistress and not fate's is not impossible, but is highly improbable. This is where the dodge chance, increased ammunition totals, and defense upgrades assist. But numbers are numbers, and while they don't hate you, they are completely indifferent to your existence. In my case, my human brain concocted this story as one of prodigious one-sided hatred, a much easier pill to swallow or bullet to take than the real truth that 1/6 or 5/6 are not perfect odds. In retrospect, pissed might be not exactly the right word because ascribing anger to something so cold and densely mechanically universally truthful as simple odds is quite ludicrous. Maybe a more accurate feeling is disillusionment or disheartenment. Despite these $10 word price feelings regarding this $0 game, I still left with a positive impression. That is largely due to the great production quality in both audio and visuals and the inalienable truth that a game about a self-brandishing six-shooter holster knight is just too silly, especially compared against the dichotomous and different odds this goober ass must contend against. And yes, just to preempt some comments, I did stumble into the shop ending. I will say no more than that. Over the past year, I have worked on becoming more confident in my critical voice. Part of that process is no longer shying away from saying bombastic things which I assume most viewers would find incendiary. I say this because I'm about to make a claim which on its face may seem absurd. Super Auto Pets is the game of the year for 2021. Let me explain. Super Auto Pets, or SAP, is a strategy PvP, or player versus player auto battler starring a cast of cute animals. Super Auto Pets may look cozy and chill, but a brief look under the hood will reveal an enormously deep and complex game, which requires players to simultaneously navigate both short-term planning for immediate return and long-term goal setting while navigating the whipping wilds of unforgiving RNG. SAP's greatest accomplishment, however, is the way it handles the handoff between shop and battle phases. In both modes, players are able to take advantage of temporary and permanent boosts. The best example of this is through the pill item, which allows players to kill one of their super auto pets. This may seem ridiculous for a new player because selling a pet nets an immediate monetary reward, but some pets provide bonuses upon death in battle. Those same in-battle bonuses are granted in the shop phase as well, except now they're on a permanent basis. For a tactile example, when the turtle dies in combat, he grants the pet behind a one-time shield melon. By pilling the turtle during shot phase, the pet behind receives this buff innately for all battles moving forward. This is only one example among many that make Super Auto Pets one of my favorite PvP games of all time. SAP has both a free and paid version which are playable on itch.io, Steam, and mobile formats. This segment, however, is not about Super Auto Pets, it's about Necrochess, a game heavily inspired and made in the hallowed image of the great all-knowing recently pilled turtle in the sky. Necrochess presents a vision of a single-player version of Super Auto Pets where players operate under similar RNG-dependent shop and battle stage modalities. Unit strength and level up structure is deftly pickpocket lifted from SAP's incorruptible Sacred Cadaver. But unlike Super Auto Pets' single-row team sheets, we now expand on the Y-axis to create more intensive compositions and additional unit types, including towers that provide permanent scaling, additional economy for builds, or spells that can be cast before or throughout combat. Unit types are varied and create interesting types of macro-level team synergy, but for most runs players will result in implementing rosters of variable archetype staples. Necrochess inside its overarching classes and units creates a beautiful blend of individual character abilities, row synergies, and whole board game plans. But why, you may be asking? Well, first, because it's fun. Obviously we wouldn't do this sort of thing if it didn't make us happy, now would we? But more pertinently, on an X's and O's basis, we are sending our units down their own individualized rows with the intention of dealing damage to the king's castle because he is a shitty landlord and we're based. To conclude this segment, I would now like to issue 2 formal awards. First, like I mentioned, Super Auto Pets receives the retroactive 2021 Game of the Year award, and Necrochess receives the Best in Show award for strategy games. Play them both. I think you'll have a lot of fun. Backstreet Warriors is a retro-inspired Pico 8 side-scrolling score tag beat-em-up game where players fight off waves of enemies while utilizing a simple control scheme. Backstreet Warriors nails a grimy arcade feeling with era-appropriate visuals, piercing sound effects, and a repetitive but catchy little background ditty of a tune. The game supports 2 players, but I can assure you my girlfriend doesn't want to huddle against my keyboard to play a game that doesn't involve Yoshi or Pokemon or Hello Kitty. Regardless, the goal of the game is to beat up 99 bad-to-the-bone street brawler tough guys before time expires or you do. If anything, I find Backstreet Warriors to be a fun little bauble, a neat but effective oddity that is fun to give a few spins. While there's no real depth present, the set dressing and immediate gameplay hook are fun enough to warrant attention from fans of this genre. Pumpkill 64 is one of the dumbest games I've ever encountered, full stop, but it's so dumb that it circles back around to actually being sick as hell. I think the gameplay on screen more than speaks for itself, and the score tag nature of the game makes it a decently replayable bespoke idiot-pilled experience. Planet Slooper is almost excellent, which is not an indictment. I think the core gameplay mechanic present is engaging and unique, the difficulty is right in the butter zone, and the art and overall style flavoring are engaging. However, there just isn't enough depth to warrant giving the game more than maybe 2 playthroughs, but I feel like if there was just a little bit more game in this game, more levels, more units, more enemies, more encounter types, etc., then Planet Slooper would likely be one of my favorites from this selection of 50. It's for that reason I wanted to include Planet Slooper for your consideration. Gameplay is pseudo-real-time, pseudo-turn-based, and revolves around revolutions, i.e. as the cursor rotates around the rectangle, units in the highlighted squares take their turns. Each unit, both player-controlled and enemy, have their own unique board interactions which govern turns. Attack, block, heals, reverse the board, amongst others build out the foundational components that make Planet Slooper's hook dig a little more than skin deep. Not only does gameplay revolve around the battle board, but your sloop-style ship also rotates around the planets, alternating between a mixture of combat and shop nodes. In the shops, you can purchase new units and relics which provide both active and passive benefits. When you're defeated, you restart at level 1 with new RNG-dependent shop relics and unit rolls to make additional attempts slightly unique. However, Planet Slooper is only 3 planets deep, and once you've got a pulse for the game's tricks, runs become less engaging and more like chores where you grind back to the only truly difficult moment, the final boss. Tastes may differ, but if you have a modicum of the roguelike sickness, then this one will probably keep your shakes at bay till at least the morning. Portaboy is likely short for Portable Boy, but I am a smart boy who wants to make an astute observation, and you of course can Squidward tentacles doing water aerobics pelt me with tomatoes at the statement's conclusion. Ahem. I would wager that a better explanation is Portmanteau Boy, the way that Portaboy Plus successfully combines two ostensibly irrevocable elements into one beautiful individual experience. Those portmanteauable, not a real word, elements are WarioWare-style minigames and a horror wallpapered shooting gallery. At outset, there isn't a whisper of any horror-flavored Game Boy Freaks or shotgun hallway blastings. Players are met with standard fare microgames, but after a few hectic clears, players are then awarded with a shotgun and the ability to look away from the Portaboy screen and straight down the Hell corridor. At this point, it is imperative for players to manage their time between completing games and dealing with the encroaching threats. Both the games and the enemies pose real risks since both gameplay flavors share the same health pool. Losing at funny cow bounce is equally detrimental as taking a ghoul's fangs to the jugular. I find this back and forth frenzied, stressful gameplay loop to be a straight up digitally illicit type substance. The score attack nature of the gameplay creates a sensible driving force for players' continued improvement. And for truly interested and first hit hooked players, that continued improvement bears narrative fruit. For its contribution to fun time gaming goodness, I would like to award Portaboy Plus with the Best in Show award for portmanteau games, which is something I just made up, because this game isn't quite horror enough for horror, and it isn't quite WarioWare enough for minigame collections, and not quite shooting gallery enough for an arcade rail shooter. However, despite not being enough of any of those singular myopic things, Portaboy Plus is more than enough of itself. So instead, let me backtrack and award Portaboy Plus with the Best in Show award for being itself. What the hell is going on here? In all my days, I have never experienced a bottle episode type 2D fixed top-down diary-esque surreal walking simulator. Maybe I didn't fart around with the RPG Maker scene enough in my youth, or maybe this is a newfound style of digital artful storytelling. Regardless, I was astounded when I encountered two of these games within a few hours of each other while determining this video's lineup. While both games feature the same framework and occupy the same micro-genre, the types of stories told in these games differ. In Confusion, you do what the name suggests and remain confused. The explorable, lack of a better word, world is much larger than its peer, but is mostly made of weirdly disparate and off-the-wall imagery in conjunction with ludicrous, ridiculous turns of phrase that only guys like me tend to write while trying to show our hot-ripped mental word abs to the succulent encroaching void. Basically, I see you. I'm mispronouncing a lot of names wrong in this video. Basically, I see you, Photcopiadora. Mind Heaven is a more grounded version of this game style, where instead of contextless sentence fragments that were dragged through all the broken glass created over the years from this hyperpop sound effect, Mo Charlick, or Mo Charlie C, instead uses the framework to express sincere feelings about their human experience. This collage-type scrapbook of intimate secrets and simple illustrations presents a perfect peer into someone else's way of being and understanding. One version of this style is not better than the other. They both have unique value when evaluating their own merits. But in the case of Confusion, I think I may be falling for some shitpost adjacent bait. Don't you love it when you encounter Schrodinger's art? Is it art? Or is it not? Who knows? Let's look inside. Sometimes you read something so ridiculous that you just don't have a choice but to engage with the gosh darn content. The Bunny Burrow was disqualified from the 2025 Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam due to not being suitable for general audiences. In my book, that's a sterling badge of honor to wear with poise and pride. Anyway, that's my allusion to the oh-so-tantalizing violence versus sex Western morality system debate. Leave 5 stars and get out of my car now. The Bunny Burrow, despite its thick-hipped rabbit women exterior, really isn't remotely sexual outside of the artifice. Instead, the game is about identifying changes in the environment. If an anomaly is found, turn around and wrap backwards through the PT hallway. If everything is business as usual, continue forward. The Bunny Burrow is a game which demands players engage with it on its own terms. For some, jumping onto a table and getting soft lock would be viewed as objectively bad, but I am based and prefer the term subjectively funny. Overall, a good idea that got railroaded for idiot reasons. God bless. Mike Bedsoul, also known as Metagame Mike, is best known for his work as a television animator on shows like Axe Cop and Archer, as well as being the lead character animator for Brawlhalla, but relevantly dabbles in the occasional solo game dev venture. Today I have two of Metagame Mike's micro games to bring to council, Birdie Bartender and Sushi Gun. Both BB and SG are Game Boy Color inspired games which each feature a singularly novel idea. In Birdie Bartender, players play a hyper-scaled down version of Diner Dash, where instead of looking after an entire restaurant's dining room, players instead only focus on manning the taps. Quick reflexes and proper order timings result in bigger tips. After a work week's worth of days-based levels, those tips are totaled and a final score is provided. Players who are interested in min-maxing can continue grinding for better scores. This very positively used grind factor is also present in Sushi Gun, a game about expertly popping sushi into the open maws of rotund patron kitty cats. Sushi Gun has more levels which are unlocked by perfecting the previous missions. Sushi Gun is definitely the harder of the two games, but practice makes perfect and perfect doesn't exist. So take it easy and blast that sushi girl, you deserve it. If Mike made a few more of these micro-style games, I could totally see a collection of cute Game Boy-ified animal-type minigames being the sort of game I would purchase at full price on Steam. Speaking of which, Mike does have a full-price game, Kero Kero Cowboy, but this video is specifically targeted at free non-demo, no-download games, so I'll have to wait for another time. No more literal a name can be applied to the game Literacy than Literacy, a game about literally learning and applying an arcane fictional language to solve 6 unique yet linked match game style single-screen puzzles. Literacy, of course, does not teach players the basics of a real-world uber-complex useful language, but instead trims the learning fat and presents a stylized microcosm of something more akin to the language of literal game design. Every rune is its own unique game input which results in sweeping board changes. By sussing out each individual rune's purpose, players can manipulate the board to create 6 identical icons. Do this 6 times for all 6 unique runes, and congratulations, no more Duolingo for you. Metroidvania is one of my favorite genres, even though it has one of my least favorite names. Games like Hollow Knight, Super Metroid, and Axiom Verge are amongst my favorite games ever, no qualifiers needed. So it brings a great deal of joy to my heart to see independent developers experimenting with the proven formula and alchemical gold-derived design DNA to produce bite-sized experiences that tick all the correct genre necessity boxes. For this section, I would like to draw attention to 2 excellent little Metroidvania experiences, Shrubnaut and Ascent. We're looking at 2 games today because I firmly believe if you look at the best elements of both these games and squish them together like some homunculus chimera freak, we would have a top-tier genre contender. Shrubnaut excels at presenting an interesting movement mechanic which doubles as a puzzling tool. That's a grappling hook, the best type of item in any game, period. Shrubnaut's use of the grappling hook manages to not undermine the platforming but instead enhance it. The way puzzles are presented in the overworld is interesting and walks the line between a traditional puzzle platforming game and a more exploration-focused platformer. I initially waffled between whether or not this game was a strict puzzle platformer or Metroidvania type, but arrived at a conclusion that rigid boundaries regarding genre regimentation is mostly a fool's game. It is much more valuable to just accept the good qualities as inherent and virtuous. On our other hand, Ascent does a much better job at enhancing its gameplay via the game world and its overall tone. It also excels at creating distinct visual language to aid players in circumnavigating between the different areas of the map once new upgrades are discovered. In some ways, Ascent reminds me of an Another World type game with its manner of storytelling, but presents it all in a more Metroidvania type package. Dear viewer, if you would allow me the pleasure to welcome you into my ephemeral sculptor's playground. Treat this as a brief respite from all this bomb-ass shit we done laid our beady, greedy, sterling starlight eyes upon this morrow or eve. Allow your retina to be flooded with these next 2 point-and-click games with unique spins on the formula and a shared commitment to claymation graphical approaches. First is Clayscape, an escape room-style puzzle game that couches its cozy visuals in an enormous, unsettling, difficult-to-exactly pin down dread. Usually with ominous tone games, I steer clear of explicitly sharing anything remotely entering spoiler territory for fear of opting you into giving up your ghost. But the whole reason I undertook the excellent escape room puzzling gameplay was because the game's description read, quote, "This colorful clay might be hiding something sinister underneath," end quote. So I don't feel like I'm infringing on your potential experience by speaking in laborious riddles. In fact, some of y'all will hear me say this game is a little bit sinister and dash directly to the game's page. So what do I know? Regardless, Clayscape is a visually spectacular, tonally resonant, moderately uncomfortable, and decently challenging game which punches well above its weight class in every major category. Apparently, this escape room type gameplay is developer Colorbomb's specialty, so I will undoubtedly check out more over the coming months. Second up in our claymation gallery is SYF or SIF, a colorful and surreal point-and-click vibes-oriented exploration game, where Clayscape was a laser-focused dissection of what makes escape room puzzle games cool with an interesting visual spin. SIF instead luxuriates in its own mundanity, revels in its oh-so-odd approach to sitting, watching, talking, and engaging with its offbeat, muddied, yet still fully realized lived-in atmospheric game world. In a strange way, despite the congruent claymation impetus and point-and-click controls, SIF and Clayscape feel like perfect foils to each other's game design sensibilities. And no, this is not a value judgment. Both manners of gameplay and tone are equally worthwhile and present unique flavors, kinda like how Pink and Red Starburst are both S tier despite different tastes. In SIF, the game flavor is more laid back, gently gesturing for players to take a look around this obtuse and eclectic landscape, and engage with sincere freaks in an underpinning sardonic tone. It's because of these differences, in spite of similarities and a desire for maintenance of my perfect inner video rules, that I present the only co-Best in Show award for point-and-click games to both Clayscape and SIF. Make 10 is a simple-to-understand score attack puzzle game that has a deceptive amount of complexity. Players are tasked with summing numbers to 10. This occurs by creating boundaries around the summable digits. Some sums are simple, 5 plus 5, 6 plus 4, 7 plus 3, etc., while others are more difficult to spot, such as 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. Sums with more inputs, like example 2, are worth more points, but are much more difficult to find on the fly, especially with the pressure of the timer ticking down. There's a $10 deluxe version of the game with new and expanded game modes, including one without a timer, but I believe this simple singular mode is more than sufficient to exist as its own realized entity. We established in a previous upload that I don't exactly understand what Toho is, and quite frankly I feel it's too late for me to ever know. I'm getting up there in years, guys. Regardless, I am a moderately literate person, so using my hooked on a little bit more than phonics skills, I know that Himiwari Catastrophe was made for a Toho fan game jam. In Himiwari Catastrophe, you take control of a blue-haired golden sword-wielding anime girl with telekinetic-type powers and hack, slash, and dash through moderately difficult waves of ghosts, puffball pests, and cherub-type gal enemies. Combat controls are responsive and leave a decent amount of room for skill growth, and online leaderboards allow you to measure your skills against the infinite void of people who do know what the hell Toho is, which is too rich for my sickly defective blood. I'm breaking my no demo rule to discuss the upcoming 2027 release Pegote, or Pegote. You can say it how you want, you know. A card game that has more in common with War than Slay the Spire. If you aren't familiar, War is the single worst card game two bored people can play under any circumstances. A game that's so boring that even my girlfriend's little cousin, who literally loves all games, even when he's losing, complained about how much it sucked. In War, players flip up playing cards. Higher card wins, and the losing player surrenders their card. In the event of a tie, War breaks out, and more cards are flipped, higher card wins, the game ends when one player's deck is exhausted. Again, the game really sucks. Pegote has a similar vibe, but presents a quirky twist that adds a much needed layer of complexity. When cards are flipped, you're given the opportunity to place a sticker on the card which affects the card's value. By winning a round, you win your opponent's cards, stickers and all. The longer you play, the more cards you earn, the more stickers you place. The more synergies you learn, the more wacky moments occur. Each round, a new sticker is placed and more chaos ensues. In the event you lose a war-type battle, your card is immediately immolated and removed from your deck. To progress, you must beat each unique card hustler a set number of times by utilizing your accrued deck and winning new cards. Overall, Pegote's hook and gameplay are a resounding success, so much that it's hard to believe that this was scraped together in about a week for a game jam. Really cool stuff. When I was in elementary school, DisneyChannel.com released a flash game called Master Matt's Kung Fu Rama based on the hit children and tween sitcom Lizzie McGuire. I played this game for at minimum 100 hours over one brutal summer in my grandmother's home office. The game involves properly timing arrow key presses to accumulate score. At the time, DisneyChannel.com kept live leaderboards which I was consistently contesting as a top-tier god gamer child. You may have heard that a dealer will give you your first hit for free to create a paying customer, and boy howdy did I start paying. I became voraciously obsessed with all manner of rhythm games. I was a full combo monster in both Guitar Hero and Rock Band throughout middle school, and in high school I was a devoted convert of the iOS game Love Live School Idol Festival. I liked School Idol Festival so much that I even watched the show, and I hated it. I mention this as a preamble for Friday Night Funkin' to prove to you, my treasured viewers, that I am down with the rhythm game sickness, and to highlight in no uncertain terms that Friday Night Funkin' makes Master Matt's Kung Fu Rama look like pre-chewed regurgitated raccoon sputum. Friday Night Funkin' has more in common with Master Matt's Kung Fu Rama than it does Love Live School Idol Festival or any fake plastic landfill max guitar brandishing maximally goofy harmonics joint. Friday Night Funkin' has the same arrow key matching gameplay as Matt's, but luxuriously surrounds the product with the most Newgrounds pilled perfect set dressing. These graphics are full of character, these songs are banging, and this weird tone ties it all together. If this game existed back when I was a middle school computer lab ne'er-do-well, I could imagine Friday Night Funkin' being an enormous hit amongst the youths, mostly thanks to the mechanical density and show-off factor for strong performers, and the implied major motion picture Where's the Intimacy coordinator moments, which morph Friday Night Funkin' in an instant to Friday Night Fuckin'. With all that said, I am proud to award Friday Night Funkin' with our Best in Show award for Rhythm Games. Die in the Dungeon is a full paid game released on Steam, which I have put about a dozen hours into over the past few months. Die in the Dungeon Classic is a free game you can play no download required in your browser. These games almost identically share a name, but I think it would be erroneous to refer to the classic version as a proper demo. If anything, it's more a proof of concept, and for that reason, I think it's earned a spot on this list as its own unique beast. Die in the Dungeon Classic is at its core the most roguelike that's ever rogueliked. Death is permanent, each run differs in unique ways, and there's no meta progression. Moment-to-moment gameplay involves the intermingling of two distinct but perfectly connected systems. First is card game type draws and discards, which govern your available options on each turn, and second is the randomized nature related to the fact that your cards are multi-sided die with unique faces with equal chances to roll. This means that during every draw phase, players are encumbered with 2 degrees of randomization. First, the dice drawn, and secondly, the face on said die. This double-blind randomized die fight bonanza creates interesting moments where you may draw the die you most needed, but it rolls its worst face value. I love this. The overall difficulty of the gameplay strikes a good balance between challenging fights and RNG dependence. Shockingly, I find the difficulty level of the Classic Edition much more engaging than the full paid release, which is one of the easiest roguelites I've ever played. And no, I did not mix the terminology there. Classic is a roguelite, whereas paid release is a roguelite. My main distinction here is that the paid version fully leans into meta progression even if you lose, whereas Classic's frigid and alarming lack of meta progression actually works in its favor as a rounded, fair, but difficult experience. To conclude, I believe that both games are quite good, yet offer distinct flavors on rogue-type games. That's my new term to ride the line. No stealing, I'll sue your ass, kiddo. I will sue you into oblivion. You'll call me Dr. Wonderful the way my team of lawyers litigates you into Satan's idea of eternity, you fucking freak. That was a lot. That was a lot. Baseball is currently my second favorite sport to think about. However, throughout most of my life, it has been my clear favorite by a wide margin. I love baseball so much that 2 of my very bad speculative fiction projects revolve around the oddities in the sport, and my flagship theorem, the Randy Johnson postulate, has made people think substantially less of me as a man. I say all this to paint a picture of the little robot that trolls the sordid halls of my brain, sorting through the extensive baseball-related rubble explicitly so I can state that pinch hitters is a pretty cool game. Now, you may not believe another person who says something like pinch hitters is a pretty cool game, but I'm the type of guy who has 3 running context-dependent lists of favorite sports. And of course, those lists are my favorite to think about, my favorite to play, and my favorite to watch. No man who doesn't write sci-fi tinged speculative baseball fiction, keep these ludicrous lists, or has made people hate me because of my groundbreaking Randy Johnson postulate could possibly have as much cachet as I do when it comes to the world of baseball video games. In pinch hitters, players are tasked with scoring a certain number of runs before getting 3 outs. Runs are scored by making contact with the ball and running bases, just like real life. However, unlike real life, the odds of a player making contact are computer law calculated and shown explicitly on the baseball player's stats. It's up to players to best utilize their unique roster of players while managing probabilities and maximizing on each unit's unique class-dependent traits. On top of this, each unit can be equipped with an item that provides passive benefits like more accuracy or better ball smashing power. In later levels, more runs are needed to win and more bases are added around the diamond. Diamond, more like dodecagon, am I right, Waka Waka? In between levels, players purchase new units and items to improve their roster's composition to better account for each unique pitcher's game-warping abilities. In the event you get 3 outs before scoring the requisite number of runs, the game immediately ends and you must restart from the beginning. Overall, I love this game. I think the idea is clever and building unique teams is interesting and fun. However, for complete thoroughness, this game is new and clearly rough around the edges, so if you partake on this sweet peach, be aware of the 2 shattering pit in the center. To continue the baseball-related good times, let's take a look at Bases Loaded, an action-packed game about batting back a horde of little red evil enemy balls. You play as a minimalist batter whose only method of doing damage and culling the waves is not, in fact, the logical bat. Instead, it's the ball. The core mechanic on display is that by clicking mouse 1 the batter swings, and by making continuous contact with the ball the enemy waves are felled. There are a slew of upgrades ranging from adding smaller hittable golf balls, putting blasters on the balls and having the ball explode once it bounces off the edge of the screen, amongst others. The fun really emerges as players are forced to deftly tiptoe past the ensuing rush of enemies to sneak their way to a stranded ball to make contact. These moments illustratively create unique tension that a more standard auto-attacking horde-style game lacks, because in these moments the player is truly powerless. Like my mom always said, the only thing more important than getting on base is making contact. And yes, that barely makes sense. And doubly yes, it sure did hurt my feelings. I took a lot of walks in Little League, and only mostly because I was afraid of swinging the bat. But every coach I had just kept saying, I had a great eye. They lied. Interstitial Hyperdreaming is a minimalist twin-stick shooter that boasts about its infinite upgrade system. I don't know about you, but I don't exactly have the patience for infinity, so I played for a little less time than that. However, while I didn't surrender a whole eternity or even a functional eternity, which is the exact amount of time I've given The Binding of Isaac, I did play much more Interstitial Hyperdreaming than anticipated. Beneath the simple bright visuals and basic controls, the extensive upgrade mechanics make for a fun and engaging gameplay loop that held my attention much longer than the slew of other prestige-style twin-stick shooters I've played recently. Novena is a brief piece of interactive fiction that explores the themes of perseverance and the beauty of being. To say more than that would completely reveal the wizard behind the curtains, so I'll leave you with a brief selection of gameplay and a light nudge to give this game 10 minutes of your time. Pop quiz, you have 5 seconds to answer. Based off the footage on screen, what is this game's genre? If you guess anything related to turn-based role-playing games, then I hate to break it to you, but you're wrong. For those of you who guessed puzzle game, congratulations, your awards are already in your mailbox. Just look for the one from your electric company. That's me in disguise. Something is Wrong with My World Map is a puzzling game that wears the attire of Super Nintendo Entertainment System role-playing games. But aside from matching the look, that is where the similarities end. Instead, the game uses these well-worn visual tropes to thoroughly subvert expectations and present players with a unique puzzle game mechanic. In SIWWMWP, the player's character changes size depending on how they enter and exit towns. There are 3 sizes: very whittle bitty, normal person size, and giga dangerous massive huge. If rudimentary size changing was all the meat on this fisher person's hook, then we wouldn't be talking right now. The big aha, what a good idea moment occurs when the uber ginormous Godzilla-like version of your character takes steps on the world map. Those steps tectonically shift the world's landscape and create land bridges for the teensy tiny or old regular versions of your character to cross. This mechanic adds a hearty layer of complexity to a game with minimal depth and results in interesting puzzle navigation solutions. All the other stuff this game has, visuals, audio, writing, feels secondary, hell, maybe even tertiary to the coolness and enormity of the base mechanics. If only I, the most benevolent and most smartiest and beautiful boy in all the expanded land, were granted with the profound ability to sway the tides of fate with monosyllabic. I know words, I swear. If only I, the most benevolent and most smartiest and beautiful boy in all the expanded land, were granted with the profound ability to sway the tides of fate with monosyllabic. Monosyllabic grunts and wheezes, I, the most prettiest and courageous of the brothers of destiny, would craft a utopia of splendor and excess. My citizens would say to me, what gorgeous hair you have, and what a full and plump mustache. I recently sold some puts and now can afford to repair my cracked incisor. Then I would humbly and carefully laugh a laugh of glee and whimsy and say, yes. In Sort the Court, you freaks can live out my most beloved fantasy, the one where I hardly have to talk and everybody loves me all the more for it. In an earlier upload where I reviewed games I purchased for less than $1 during the Steam Spring Sale, I reviewed the game Reigns, an eerily similar one-word answer type game following the lineage of royalty descended from the subprime post-peak original King of Exaltation. It's difficult for me to separate Sort the Court and Reigns from my mind due to their abundant similarities and eerily close release dates. If I had to pick apart the core differences, Sort the Court is free and Reigns is more interesting. Basically, in both games, eccentric townsfolk and visitors alike bring vague situations to you, the king, for review. The actual outcomes of these situations are obfuscated and result in affecting your kingdom's stats, i.e., making a big investment in a venture capital fuck may result in a wonderful payday or horrible losses never retrieved, or a wizard can offer to do a little magic, but what exactly the magic causes is as nebulous as our understanding of how magnets would work if we were both high and the magnets were actually just made of cheap plastic. Essentially, you make vague decisions based on even more vague terms brought to you by little idiots. I know Sort the Court has an ending, but it doesn't take long for your court to begin seeing frequent flyers with the same repeat request, so I've never felt the spiritual obligation to fight through the repetitive mundanity to see the curtains officially close. If you like Sort the Court, you will love Reigns, but if you like Reigns, then I think your mileage may vary with Sort the Court. All rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles. I have a little exercise for y'all, and it is relevant, I swear. I want you to take a look around the room you're currently occupying. I want you to identify an object within reach that has the most emotional meaning to you. I want you to take a moment and to consider when and how this object came into your possession. I want you to take a brief moment of introspection to appreciate what it means to you and the ways that the passage of time may have affected your feelings. I'll give you some silence to think about it. Gacha is a game about nostalgia and the way we ascribe meaning to objects. In Gacha, we receive brief blurbs highlighting someone's feelings and history surrounding both major and minor events that impacted their upbringing and the person they are today. Gacha offers a slight but affecting glimpse into another's experience and lets us tangentially attempt to step into their proverbial shoes. I think it's nice and sweet and good. There's roguelikes about everything these days, from poker to slots to Plinko for fuck's sake, so it's only natural that enterprising developers would take stock of other avenues for roguelike presentations. Enter Solitomb, the game that answers my version of the ghost of Alex Trebek's favorite Hallelujah Jeopardy question. What would Solitaire be like if it was a roguelike? And of course, I would answer, Actually pretty cool, Alex. And then he would give me $200 and ask me to go back to the board, and I would select the video games category, Alex, and he would ask me, in that calm but sexy way of his, this video game stars an NBA MVP and was largely regarded as one of the games of all time. And I would whisper back, all demure and whatnot, what is Barkley Shut Up and Jam? And then the buzzer would blare and Alex would shoot me with a chrome Beretta for being so wrong. Oh, also, Solitomb is pretty cool too. You should play it. Of course, the correct answer to Alex's oblique fucking riddle is Barles Charkley's Shut Up and Paint, a prestigious entry in the Mario Paint-likes genre. I thought about writing up a slew of deep-cut basketball jokes for this segment, mostly just to flash my grotesque pejorative sports ball fandom, but I felt like I would certainly receive a technical party foul for excessive grandstanding after what I can only refer to as the Boom Shakalaka-esque slam dunk long-form video essay paragraph of all time. But I will resist the urge to Westbrook-like pad my stats and instead do my best Tony Snell impression and just perform a little verbal cardio on our painter's court. Charles Barkley, also known as the round mound of rebound, is literally one of my heroes, and that's not a joke. Sometimes I tell jokes here, but sometimes I'm as serious as Bronny James's 2023 cardiac episode, and say words that I mean, a trick few people have mastered in this online space. Chuck doesn't want you to think of him as a role model, but by God did that not work. If you were to force me off my soapbox, then I think we could at least agree that Barkley-related Quad City DJ mashups are pretty rad. It seems I got my scripts mixed up there for a second. That was the exact opposite of what I promised I would do. Oh lord, that's embarrassing. I hope you can forgive me and accept this beautiful image on screen as consolation. Incarceration is a ridiculous post-ironic humor-forward surrealistic take on WarioWare-style games. The gimmick present is that all of these games occur behind the wheel of a car. There's a good narrative reason all gameplay occurs from a motorist POV, that's point of view. In the game's intro, you as the driver plow through a crowd of unsuspecting pedestrians and are sentenced to incarceration, which is a period of house arrest inside your car, so more like car arrest. Get it? Incarceration. As an incarcerated individual, you must complete community service minigames to prove to the court you're worthy of probation outside your vehicle. Between off-the-wall WarioWare-inspired little minigame ditties, players witness little ludicrous interludes between the goobers employed in the court's scope. If you like offbeat, off-the-wall, off-the-chain, chronically online alternative humor or WarioWare-type microgame mashups, then there is a lot to like here. Herd Trees is a novel puzzle game that maintains its trajectory throughout its brief half-hour runtime. Puzzles revolve around creating patterns using the alphabet on the right side of the screen. These patterns are uncovered by solving drag-and-drop layer-based puzzles. These puzzles offer a good mixture of straightforward game-sense puzzle solving and unique lateral thinking moments. Most of these puzzles rely heavily on warping your frame of reference and recontextualizing given information. Where Herd Trees excels is by using the more straightforward but still intensive puzzles to rewire the player's brain to approach the more unique, opaque puzzles. And if for any reason you get stumped, fret not, all solutions are broken down step by step in the game's menu, which is a welcome addition since most games require looking up separate guides that often don't explain the logic or reasoning behind a solution. By placing the solutions in the menu in a point-by-point fashion, players can easily omit full solutions and just get a light nudge in the general solution's direction. Of course, this is optional, so if you want to prove your mental gamer mettle, then don't click in this area, goober. Itch.io has a rich repository, or maybe even better yet, a rich reliquary of visual novels. I personally have no time or patience for the "are visual novels games?" discussion. I don't think it's particularly productive to be building barriers when we could build bridges, and I am supremely stoked that people have the God-given fucking right to play whatever they want, removed from any sort of bullheaded, obstinate, oblique misunderstandings present in the hearts and minds of myopic paramecium like rubes. Well, look at that. I guess I found the time to express my opinion anyway. With that said, I have limited the visual novel category for this video for a very good reason. Trust me, bro or sis, or people who don't play by those antiquated rules, we will drown in a sea of visual novel excellence at a later date, I swear, sweetie. This preamble now delivers me to the heart of my new declaration of interdependence. This game will end in 205 clicks. A title which I believe earns a spot in the Hall of Fame for premier clickbait. But stifle your twitching typing trigger fingers, my dears, I don't mean that negatively at all. It is a compliment of the highest possible magnitude, well, second highest magnitude. The highest magnitude is one of my illustrious Best in Show awards, which, by the way, I am honored to present. This game will end in 205 clicks with 2 Best in Show awards. The first in our visual novel category, and the second is excellence in properly using clickbait. I would not have clicked on this game if its title thumbnail combo were not pristine and calculated to make inveterate game snobs like myself break from the mire of pretension to see what the hell is happening with this little dandy. This game will end in 205 clicks was developed by Insert Disc 5, or Insert Discs, the developer of In Stars and Time and Start Again, a prologue, the latter of which I covered in my Steam Winter Sale video and enjoyed immensely. When I played old 205, I had no clue about the development DNA lineage on display, so it had no impact on initial impartial takeaways, those being that this visual novel has an interesting hook and explores its themes with scalpel-like precision. It has to due to its short runtime. After all, there are only 205 clicks, so story moments and themes must present with urgency and brevity. These resonant large thematic moments exploring queerness and expectations land with authority, which is a major accomplishment in context of the whole game, considering that there are just as many humorous comedy-oriented segments and bits that don't siphon the mood from the larger, deeper moments. In fact, I would go as far as to say the multiple tones work in each other's favors and create a multiplicative effect. Overall, if you're a person who vibes with visual novels or enjoyed Insert Discs or Insert Disc 5's games, then this game may be for you. Karpe Diem is a Pokemon fan game. Depending on your mental emotional composition, make and model that is either devilishly enticing or grotesquely off-putting. But before you cast your aspersion at over the wide free gaming ocean, let me provide additional context, because I think once you hear Karpe Diem's hook, whichever camp you occupy may soon shift. I know when I think Pokemon fan game, I default to thinking about games that align closely in core design considerations to their mainline peers. This includes turn-based, rock, paper, scissors, shotgun combat, gym badges, evil teams, fun towns, and legendary Pokemon tomfoolery. Karpe Diem really doesn't include any of that. Gone are the turn-based combats, evil teams, legendary Pokemon tomfoolery, and gym badges, leaving only fun towns and injecting a whole lot of flavor, personality, and heart. In Karpe Diem, players take control of a fisherman as he participates in the region's annual Karpe Diem fishing tournament. This tournament takes players through lively routes, cute towns, and fun NPC interactions. All the while, players complete bare-bones GBA minigame-style fishing, which maintains the spiritual appearance of the Inception-perfect gotta-catch-em-all catchphrase. Ultimately, the core fishing gameplay is bare-bones and rather unassuming and unexceptional. However, the real selling point of Karpe Diem is its ability to make the world feel tangible and true to the ideas of Pokemon. In many ways, I would venture better than the original games it takes inspiration from. Karpe Diem manages to paint Pokemon's version of simple utopia with the brightest colors and finest toothbrushes. Developer Bird Up manages to integrate people and Pokemon in this world in more interesting and heartfelt ways that left me wondering why Game Freak has faltered so strongly in making their worlds feel this lived in and natural. If you even have a passing interest in Pokemon, I think you should take a moment to check out Karpe Diem and immerse yourself in a slew of really good world-building ideas. I will not show any gameplay beyond Little Fat Boy 2's title screen. This is for good reason. Little Fat Boy 2 is a closed-box, self-referential time attack puzzle game that astounded me with multiple jaw-on-the-floor aha moments that I in good conscience cannot spoil for you, even with background gameplay. If those first few sentences were not enough to entice you, allow me to present Little Fat Boy 2 with the Best in Show award for puzzle games, easily the most competitive category in this year's listing. And if that Best in Show award wasn't enough, allow me to bestow Little Fat Boy 2 with our first annual illustrious Best in Show gold medal for overall gaming achievement. That's right, this here game is our big winner. Go play Little Fat Boy 2. You're gonna think it's cool, I swear. Retro Bowl is a great game, but this version of Retro Bowl has my eyebrows raised so high they have moved around all the way to the back of my skull. My inner skeptic, which made me a jerk and pariah in middle school, is rearing its dubious head and readying its all-too-confident crypt keeper limber typing fingers to screed gush maximally about the nature of ethics. I hold steady. The me that I am repels the Crypt Keeper troll in my darkest heart and begs for a fragment of reasonability in the storm of unknown information. Is this upload of Retro Bowl from the original developer? No, absolutely not. Does the original developer know about this PC rip, or even care, or do they tacitly allow this to continue because it drives app traffic? We just don't have the answers, so why, yes, this may be a jerk move, it could also be rad as fuck, and we don't know. With that behind us, let's talk about the actual game. I've easily played multiple dozens of hours of the Retro Bowl app on my iPhone 7 Plus. When my girlfriend and I were living in different places, she would return home at night since we both worked early on different sides of the city. While I waited for her to return home safely, I would bang out a few rounds of Retro Bowl, an arcade sports game with light management and simulation elements. During these waits, which sometimes felt like anxiety strangling eternities wishing for a text confirming safe arrival, I raised a team from the doldrums to the promised land. I built a dynasty, championships, MVPs, Defensive Player of the Years, any and every award trophy and medal and accolade stacked to the rafters and through the doors and to the rafters again. I love Retro Bowl because it is maybe the single greatest arcade American football game I've ever played. And you can try the game on itch.io, assuming that you're okay with the team's colors being borked. So, in the gameplay, the colors aren't borked, but when I initially played this, every team was purple and blue, like every single one. I played for 40 minutes. They were all purple and blue. I don't know what causes that, so if you play this and the colors are purple and blue, let me know. The gameplay on the screen, though, it looks like it's supposed to look. Or, if you will allow me to break for a single time with my perfectly consistent internal rulings related to this video's thesis, maybe you should just download the app on your phone and play it there. Ruins of Mitrium is a decent action exploration game with a fun art style, striking color scheme, and one singularly excellent game-warping laudable mechanic. Before I gush about my newfound love, let's lay the groundwork for standard gameplay expectations. Players take control of a character that is shepherding along a tank-like walker through a land crawling with wildlife threats and bandit camps. It is critical for players to maintain safe distances and pick their battles mindfully because if either the character or caravan's HP hits 0, then you respawn back at the start. For players who find the gameplay easy, there's a hardcore style mode where death results in restarting the whole game instead of just respawning away from the action. The gush-worthy mechanic comes from the collection of the titular rare resource Mitrium, which enables players to upgrade different aspects of their character or caravan. The cool thing about Mitrium is that these resources can be hot swapped by a few clicks of the keyboard. If you're needing more speed, damage, or whatever, then remove your upgrades from another skill area and reapply the buffs elsewhere. This quick switch, low commitment freeform approach to character customizations and builds, which is live altered to address pressing needs, is incredible. There's no need to find an NPC or rare item to respec, which is often in-game currency expensive a la Elden Ring's limited larval tiers, or time consuming if you need to travel across the map to a specific respec location. By removing the fluff and instead fully embracing convenience, Ruins of Mitrium manages to present one of my most favorite character stat systems in any game I've ever played. The shame is that the game this perfect system is stapled to is pretty bare bones in regards to exploration and combat. If this system was applied to a more interesting game, I think you'd have a major hit on your hands. Hi, this is me after scripting. I played this game again. I think it was a little harsh. It's actually pretty fun and pretty cool. It's an interesting game. Scripting me was being a little too cynical. Game's great. Game's great. You should go play it. I'm so sorry for lying to you initially. Just do it. Okay, bye. Well, the next game. Here it is. I appreciate when a game has the gumption, gall, and sheer audacity to declare its goal in the title. Boy, there's a lot of talk about titles in this one, isn't there? In 1 million shrimp, you must fish up 1 million shrimp. This is completed by mostly just sitting and waiting around, because a Milli Shrimpy is an auto-clicker incremental game. Well, kinda. The 1,000 Squared Shrimp developers had the kindness in their hearts to save my already worrisome condition arthritic wrist the pain of rapid clicking for nebulous rewards. Instead of summoning the eldritch carpal tunnel demons, players can just hover their mouse over their intended clicker target. On top of this enormous kindness and consideration for folks like me, Shrimps A Million also introduces a unique timer mechanic in seasons which affect shrimp haul totals and impact how many auto-clicks are completed in a singular season. To add another fun wrinkle to this mechanic, you can spend some of your limited seasonal time setting traps, which haul more shrimp on average than your standard nets and hands. I like the give and take that this mechanic presents since you can only put one trap out at a time. I think in aggregate, if incremental games fully committed to fleshing out more limited type mechanics, it would do a great deal for overall moment-to-moment interest level in the final product, which in my experience largely become background time sinks as opposed to games players can actively and regularly participate in. And so we tentatively arrive at this soft conclusion. The train has hit the end of its tracks, and this foray into browser gaming goodness closes until we meet on this here mechanical horse-related metaphor-laden internet corner next time. If you have some hot gaming action recommendations, either browser games or otherwise, I would love to add them to my spreadsheet. So share away, my parasocial peers, and may your dreams be sweet and your pump be huge. God bless. Oh, and since this video lacked a narrative through line, I don't know how to end this video, so oops, my bad. Bye-bye.